Mizuki Banner is finally here, and isn't it isn't it lovely that we finally get the information that we need for the absolute, I would say, worst banner in basically Genshin Impact history. But overall, as usual, today we're going to be having a video deep diving in the banner themselves, as well as talking a little bit about the character, so that if any of you who are deciding to pull or thinking about future banners and stuff like that, we're going to be discussing everything about that as usual. Mizuki is basically here and Furina is coming back soon, so if you're planning to swipe for pulling, then don't forget to check out Loot Bar. If you know me, I've been recommending you guys Loot Bar before, since you can always save almost a 20% on all of your top-ups. With over 100,000 orders and so many good reviews at this point, you can be sure that Loot Bar is trustworthy. Here you can see my order receipts of all of my top-ups that I have done. So guys, be sure to check out Loot Bar through the link in my description, as it can be a great way for you to save your money, especially if you are topping up a large amount. So first off, about Mizuki as a whole, right? I'm pretty sure I've already talked a bit about the characters themselves, and this is more going to be my personal opinion about Mizuki as a character. I would say I like her character design. Like come on. I think Hoyoverse already think about this a lot when they've decided a character like this, but I also kind of appreciate the way they designed her, because they've already expected her to be a standard character. And while in terms of how good looking of a character in standard, at this point, the best character only for me is Kuching. But then Mizuki is going to be another character that's going into the standard, which is kind of weird how we technically have two Anemo characters in the standard, and they are both healer as well. But since Mizuki design is rather good looking, maybe, you know, we wouldn't really be too angry whenever we lose to a Mizuki down the line. And while if we do look into Mizuki constellation, technically speaking, I would say that her constellation is one of the better one, or coming into one of the best constellations for a standard character out there that we may potentially have. So even though she is on the limited banner this time around, many of us might not be pulling for her, because while of course it doesn't really make sense unless you really love her character design, but other than that, since she is meant to be for a standard character, I don't think it's going to be too bad of her kit to be in the standard character role. For Sigewinne, yes, as I've mentioned before, I like her character design as well. You know, her color scheme of being you know, slightly pink and blue, I always like that. But I feel like the banner of the first phase this time around are meant for cute characters and Genshin Impact players that focuses on cute design, then yes, it makes perfect sense for you guys to pull this character. Like, hey, it's not always about the meta discussions that we always talk about, right? Genshin Impact is a chilled game, and the gameplay is already easy enough. I'm pretty sure all of us know about this at this point in time, because while we don't really have any tough end game content, you know, sometimes the abyss can be hard, but it's not always a must to actually fully clear the abyss. So if we're having a different perspective, it is okay for Hoyoverse to, you know, create characters that are more on the cuteness side and less of the meta as a whole. And yeah, Sigewinne, she had the potential to be a very good character, because she has the ability to increase your E skill damage to a pretty decent amount, and of course she is a hydro character that allows you to have an easier time having hydro resonance on your team. But the only thing that she lacks is the ability to hydro application, which is basically the most important thing whenever you are a hydro character, let alone being a support character as well. So that's a huge thing that she missed out. I don't know if this was an intentional design from Hoyover's side, but honestly speaking, if she had good hydro applications, she's going to be so much higher on the tier list. Like, I can guarantee you that Sigewinne is going to be at least on an A tier or potentially an S- tier. That is really kind of sad for me that she lacked this kind of kit herself. But while it is what it is, I do have a Sigewinne on my account, and I might just as well as play around with her. But other than that, in terms of meta perspective wise, it is really hard for her to keep up in most of the roles that she is required. Moving on is going to be the 4-star on the banner themselves. Interestingly, Goro is here. I have no idea why Hoyoverse decided to put Goro here. I mean, again, many of the time, we don't really need a reason for a specific character to be here. But the thing is that most of the time, Goro has been on Ito's banner. So it seems as though Ito isn't going to be coming back in a long while. Sorry to those of you who are Ito main, but you know, other than that, Ito isn't really a popular character anyway, so it isn't really too bad. But it's also kind of good because Goro is still one of the better geo support character out there that we have in the entire game, and you know, he can potentially work on a Navia team. So yeah, if you do have more of Goro constellations, that is perfectly fine. The Sayu is pretty much just a nice character to have on your account with her rolling around in the overworld for you to have a bit of fun. Now technically speaking, she can heal your team to a pretty decent amount, helping you to do a bit of swirling, and yes, she can be on a Mizuki team, but again, we've discussed before, Anemo being another character on Mizuki team isn't really that good. So yeah, it is not really recommended for Sayu to do that. And the character that everyone has been saying is trying to carry the whole of the first phase is going to be Xiangling. Interestingly, Xiangling is here earlier than I expected, though when we're looking back to it, she has been back since 4.8, so it has been a bit of time, but it is faster than many of the 4-star out there that we've discussed in the past. So that is a nice thing. However, Xiangling has been around quite a lot, especially in the previous Lantern Rite event. We just had the options to choose for her, so I'm assuming many of us has already had at least a C4 Xiangling at this point. But well, as long as she is still basically one of, if not the best overall pyro character in the entire game. So overall, for the character banner themselves, it doesn't really make too much sense for you to go for if you are looking into meta perspective, of course. But as I've discussed earlier, it is for those of you who are a preference for this character. Like myself, I'm probably going to be pulling for Mizuki because yeah, I like her character design, and while again I do have to pull for her to make content for you guys, so yes, I'm going to be pulling for her, and as well as Sigewinne too, right? They are all preference character. They're designed for those of us who love the character design, love the character personality, and would like to have them on their account. It doesn't always make sense to have a backlash on the character just simply because their kit design isn't too good, right? So good luck to those of you who are deciding to pull on the character banner. As for the weapon banner, we first have Mizuki's weapons, and I would say this is one of the weapons that give you an insane number of elemental mastery. You're getting a whopping 513 elemental mastery just from this weapon alone if you are able to trigger Swirl from the character that is holding on this weapon, right? Generally speaking, as you may have known, EM does have a diminishing return after roughly 250 EM, so many of the time having too much EM doesn't really help a character. However, on Mizuki's case, it is designed for her, so yes, technically speaking, the more EM Mizuki has, the better she's going to be. So Mizuki does not mind having more EM, especially with her weapons helping her that. But I think this weapon is also a nice weapon if you do have on your account, because even if you can't trigger Swirl on the character that is holding this weapon, then you're still getting roughly around 393 EM boost to the character that's holding it, and you know, it's kind of just like a nice start stick, but obviously it's not a must pull for most of the time. So this weapon is more or less a nice weapon to lose to if it does come back in a future weapon banner. Other than that, you do have the Sigewinne bow. Well, of course, this bow is made for Sigewinne, but it's more on the damaging side. Obviously, it does help Sigewinne to heal better, but yeah, it's a bit of a waste on Sigewinne unless you really do want to build her as a DPS character. Technically speaking, you can use it on some other bow character that scales off of HP, you know, like a Yelan, which is rather cute because it has HP percentage increase, but you technically won't be able to get that elemental burst crit rate increase, which is kind of sad because in order for you to get maximum stack, you do need to have bond of life increase and healing capability on that specific character. 4-star weapon wise, you have the flute and you know, the Eye of Perceptions. Those two are technically really bad, so if you do pull on this banner, hopefully you don't get those weapons. Other than that, you know, the Akomaru series is rather decent depending on which character you do have it on, but usually these weapons are the better sides of the 4-star, so it's kind of surprising that we're seeing 3 of the series being on on the banners themselves. I think it's trying to give a better spotlight on the weapon banner, but overall, again, it is a preference-wise banner. You're probably not going to be pulling unless you're loving the 5-star on the banner themselves. So as usual, if you're on a meta perspective wise, none of these banners are going to be worthwhile for you to pull, but if you are deciding to pull, I really wish you good luck on that front. Which leads us to the main point of the video itself, right? It's to discuss about the future banners potential, because we technically already know that this banner is a filler banner in the first phase, especially of patch 5.4, which is an okay thing. It's not really that bad. Sometimes we have bad banner phases because yes, this is the time that you guys can technically save up your Primogems. I've seen so many comments shitting on these two banners being bad, but I don't think a bad banner phase is going to be as worse as the phase where you have two very insanely good characters side by side. You know, Mizuki and Sitlali banner situation, right? How many of you guys, especially free to play, didn't actually manage to pull for both Mizuki and Sitlali? Or the fact that you may want their constellations and you don't have enough, or you know, their weapons as well. Those were actually a nightmare for many of us, and I believe that is the case far more than, you know, Mizuki and Sigewinne banner situation right now, which is a point that I want to make out there. So the first phase is going to be the phase that we get to save up our Primogem, and thank God Rina is on the second phase where, you know, we should be able to have more Primogems to potentially pull for either her weapons or her constellation, depending on how much of an investment you would like to give toward Farina, as I'm pretty sure she's a very important character that many of us would like to pull for. I'm going to be having many more Farina's updated things and videos down the line, but right now, as I've known, she's a pretty decently important character for many of us. Right next to her is going to be Ryo. Ryo is definitely going to be a preference character, but if you're more toward you know, kind of a cryo gameplay, technically speaking, Risley is basically the best cryo DPS character that you've got in the game right now. So if you're interested in that, then yeah, you can pull for him. However, I still feel that the whole patch 5.4 is technically a fully safe patch, because especially for those of you who already have Farina, you may want to hold a lot on your Primogems, because I do have a feeling that after this rest patch, a whole bunch of very good character is going to be coming. Hopefully Skirk is going to be coming in 5.5. I really do not want to wait any further for her. There have been information going around with Ian-san coming pretty soon as well, and obviously there are multiple other characters that Hoyoverse have teased before that we still need to wait more on the information, but we can be guaranteed that they are coming pretty soon. Obviously, it's better for us to hold on to our Primogems until the upcoming 5.5 live stream to know more information about these characters, but at this point in time, I think that's all the information I can give us for now. I hope that the video have been helpful to you in terms of helping you make the decisions. Again, if you're trying to pull on the banners, or either you're saving up for the Primogems, don't forget to check out Loot Bar, as I'm pretty sure they will be very helpful to you. If you're new to the channel, guys, don't forget to subscribe. I really appreciate you guys staying with me till this part of the video, guys, and with that, I wish you a super day, and I'll catch you on my next video.